am Maggie. Welcome to Experiments in Crafting. Tonight I've got a handful of stuff to show you. I did some shopping over the weekend and came across some good deals. So I've got some new yarn and some old yarns that have come out in some new colors and things like that to show you. I've got a Leither Co. box that I've unboxed before. I've shown you guys some of the ones that I've gotten in the past. I got another one of those that I can share with you. And I got a few other things just to talk about, whatnot. And then as always, we'll have time for questions and, chat towards the end, or really throughout. So if you have any questions or things you want to talk about, crochet or yarn related, go ahead and throw those in the live chat and we'll address those throughout. Welcome to everybody who's watching, and I see a couple people said hello in the comments. Hello and welcome to the live stream. So, yeah, so last week I didn't have a whole lot of shopping or anything, and I didn't have a whole lot to show off. We kind of just let it be comment driven, and that actually worked pretty well. So we did a little bit of Ravelry tutorial, and then we sort of let the rest be comment driven. And so this week I do have some stuff to show off, but yeah, as always, comments are appreciated, and those keep the live stream moving. And then just a side note, we are constantly adding some new infrastructure to make our live streams better. And so if there's a problem with the audio or video or something going on YouTube's end, or, through the live stream, please let us know. And don't just power through bad audio or something. There's a problem on our end that we need to fix. Let us know. So with that being said, I'm going to just start in the pile and bring out some stuff and show it off. All right. So first up, I've got some of this Bernat Elise Blanket Easy. This has been out for a while. This is nothing new. I didn't see that there were a few new colors out for the fall. It's very bright right now because it's kind of like a bright white creamy color here. But this is something that a couple of people have asked me to try out and do a review of, or maybe a tutorial on how to use it. I thought it was going to be sort of a fad and here and gone, and it seems to be holding on and getting a little bit of popularity still. And while I was at Joann Fabric, these were on sale for 4 for $20, which I thought was a really good deal. They've been really expensive, in my opinion, and you can use a 50% off coupon or something like that, but then you only get one ball, and one ball is only 18 yards, so it's not a whole lot of yarn to do much with, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. But while I was at Joann Fabric, they had this book, which was Baby Loops and Twists by Leisure Arts, and it is all patterns for this looping style yarn. And I'll flip it open to the table of contents here so you can see the patterns inside. Looks like there's 8 patterns in here. Let me clear these off to the side here and show this here. So I'm going to try and minimize the glare off the light here. But there's a basket pattern, a blanket with like a crossed-hatched border on it, a burp cloth, a diaper case, a hat, leg warmers, a penguin pillow, and a sleep sack. So all baby patterns. I think that's what it was, Baby Loops and Twists. So it's all baby targeted stuff. But I actually really liked this throw over here. And I'm going to try and find a better picture of the edge here. I don't want to show too much pattern, but see if I can find, where's the blanket supposed to be? It was towards the front. Had the table of contents open and then I didn't use it. So this is the blanket here, and it's sort of just a little crisscrossy pattern, but the edging on the blanket, which is really pretty hard to see, looks really cool. It's got kind of a cabled edge to it. So I'm going to try and work this up. I have no idea how hard it's going to be. The pattern calls for 3 skeins of this yarn. They don't specifically call out the Bernat Blanket Easy, but they do say that it needs to be 180 grams or 18 yards. And so that is the exact specs on this. 6.4 ounces, 180 grams, 18 yards or 16 meters. So that's this. I assume that the other ones, I'm trying to think who else has this out. Red Heart has one out. Big Twist, I think, is the house brand at Joann Fabric. I think they've got one out. So everyone's kind of got one of these loop yarns out, but I don't know. I'll see how it works up. It's such a sort of a strange yarn that I thought I'd give it a try and follow one of these patterns and see what comes of it. So, yeah. So, if anyone out there has worked with any of this loop yarn or, you know, interested in trying it out, let me know and I'll maybe put a review together. I probably won't do a tutorial, or at least not a full blanket tutorial because I'm going to use a pattern out of a book, but I could do potentially an introductory tutorial if I get a hang of this. So, but if any of you have used it, I'd love to hear what you think of it. Xana's saying that their kids love the loop yarn. I have a friend who's got twin daughters that I spend a lot of time with, and they're just about 8, and they've asked for help learning to crochet, and they just really don't quite have the patience yet to learn how to get tension right and stuff like that. And so this could be a really interesting option. It's a little okay, so she also says that it's great for kids, but it doesn't hold up over time or washing. I guess I'm not totally surprised by that because it is, I'm not sure how they form the loops, but you can feel that there's like a backbone here. So like if you're looking, it's just looped yarn, but I don't know if it's just sewn right here. It could just be that they loop it and sew it, loop it and sew it, in which case I could see that if this broke that you would just, like your loop would fall. So over time, I guess I could see how that could fail. So yeah, I'm going to clear these guys away. I'm going to move them over here. And if anyone has any other questions about that, I'm happy to pull them back out and readdress those. So this is some yarn that, this is Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. And Woolies Thick and Quick has been around forever, at least as long as I've been crocheting. Okay, so she's saying that the loops pull right off the Bernat Elise Easy. So that's good to know if you're too rough with it, and I imagine that's a risk with working with kids, that they're just a little bit heavy-handed. Anyway, back to this here. This is Lion Brand Thick and Quick Woolies, Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. This is a yarn that's been around for a while. I don't even know that these are particularly new colors, but I came across them and they were very pretty. They worked really well together. So I've got Night Shadow and Sequoia here. And my plan is to make a men's scarf with some mosaic crochet. I've had a couple of people asking for help with mosaic crochet. I found a really simple repeating pattern to do a men's scarf. And so I'm going to work that up, see how I like Thick and Quick. I think I've used Thick and Quick in the past for the little like woodland hoods. So a couple years back, they were really popular. It was like a cowl, and then you worked the whole cowl, and then you worked back and forth and made a hood out of it. And I think I used Thick and Quick, but I think mostly I used Loops and Threads Charisma, I think is the heavy one. If it's not charisma, then it's something impossible. I think impossible's the worsted weight, and charisma's the heavy weight. So I think I primarily used that, but I might have used some Thick and Quick. So, anyway, it's been a while, so I got some Thick and Quick, and I'm gonna work it up into a men's scarf. I thought these were really nice, fall colors, a little bit more masculine. And then I can also try and do a mosaic crochet tutorial. Mosaic crochet is relatively straightforward, but it requires a lot of, I guess I would say, concentration in following the pattern. It's not an easy repeat. Usually instead of being like a 2 or 3 row repeat, the very simple pattern that I have is a 14 row repeat. So you work the first 14 rows and then you start back over and have to work the 14 row pattern again. Whereas something like the Granny Spike tutorial that I did was a 2 row repeat. This row worked this way, and then the next row was just a little offset, and then the third row was a repeat of the first row. So anyway, so keep an eye out for that coming. We'll get a review. Even though that this is not a particularly new yarn, we'll get a review together on that. We'll get a tutorial out on that, and see what we do there with that. So, moving on. What else do I have? All right. So I think I showed this off last week a little bit. This is a pumpkin wreath that I designed a couple of years ago. And it's just a foam wreath in the middle. I made a crochet, sort of like a scarf for it, and wrapped it all around, and then made a leaf and some little vines. And I've actually really liked the way this turned out. You can see the little leaf here. And yeah, so this was a little thing that I designed a couple of years ago. I'm working on getting the tutorial together for this. It's going to be kind of a long one just because it's a little bit tricky to put together. But anyway, last year I went to go order this yarn. And, well, I went to the store to buy orange and green yarn. I needed more. This was done in Bernat Blanket Brights, which is just one of Bernat's many blanket lines. And I couldn't get it. I ended up going to Craftsy to get it. They have pretty much every color Bernat makes in stock most of the time. And I ordered some carrot orange and some... I thought I had more go-go green, but looks like I'm pretty low on that. But I've got a bunch of different, like, little mock-ups of curly cues and vines and leaves and stuff. But I ordered some carrot orange and some go-go green out of the Brights line. But last year, Bernat... So every year, Bernat changes their blanket colors. So last year, they were primarily, like, jewel tones. And they had... like burgundy, they had a dark purple, they had a nice light gray, and then a deep gray, and I think they had some teals and some blues and things like that. So that was last year's colors. You couldn't buy orange or green or any pumpkin colors basically in the store. So I got this from Craftsy. The other day I was at Joann, and they had both orange and green in stock. And so this is, Orange Leaf and Deep Sea are the names of these colors. I'm not sure why they went with Deep Sea on a dark green, but that's what they did. Anyway, it looked like this year's, colors were more woodsy. They had these colors. There was a brown. I think there was a dark blue. So, anyway, the end of the story is that there are colors available for doing pumpkins in store. Easy to get. And so I'm going to go ahead and release this video as soon as I get it together. Hopefully in the next couple weeks here so that you guys can make pumpkins for the fall. But the good news, at least in my perspective, is that you can get these without having to order them online, which means that they're a little bit easier, and maybe more people will be able to do the project. So, Bernat blanket is nothing new. It's been around for years and years, but like I said, every year they release new colors, and this year's just happened to be woodsy, and that there's availability for the colors that I want to use for this pattern. A couple people saying hello. So welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. As always, if you've got questions about yarn or crochet or anything that I can answer, leave those, put those in the chat. And I've got that up on the screen in front of me, and I can take a look at those. Stephanie's saying that her Joanne recently clearanced all the blanket brights out. I haven't seen it in a Joanne fabric around me in a while, so it's good to know that they existed, or they were still around. Like I said, I got mine from Craftsy last year. I think Bernat keeps a lot of the colors around, and they just produce a ton of it all the time, but stores only buy so many colors at a time. So it could just be that your Joanne fabric, it could be that they're getting rid of the Blanket Brights line, but it could just be that your store is getting rid of them so that they've got shelf space for the new line or for some other yarn that they want to stock there. Only a handful of the Joanne fabrics that I know of keep a ton of yarn. Mine only has 1.5 aisles of yarn. I've been to some that have 6 aisles or something like that, where it's just everything you can imagine. So I think it's store to store. It depends on what's popular in your area. And that's how much shelf space it gets versus other things. All right, so I've got a few other things. While we're still going through things that are not totally new, but either new colors or things that caught my eye, and I'm just gonna make some projects out of. I picked up some Caron big cakes. There we go. Having a hard time deciding where to put them there. Trying to get them on both cameras. So Caron cakes has been around for a while. They were kind of the original in these color changing striping yarns all in one big cake here. So these are the big cakes. They're much larger than the regular Caron cakes. I'm just going to give you some numbers here. So they are 100% acrylic. They're 10.5 ounces or 300 grams. That is 603 yards or 551 meters. It is a number 4 weight yarn, and they recommend a 5mm knitting needle or a 5mm H hook. So I have cherry compote, that's this one here, and I have plum pudding, which is the one over here. I thought that they were pretty fall palettes, and so my thought was, I think Stephanie actually asked for a waffle stitch or a basket weave stitch, and so I thought they might look interesting worked up into a waffle or a basket weave scarf or cowl for fall. So my plan is to do mosaic crochet, which has been asked for, out of the Lion Brand Thick and Quick, and then this out of the basket weave stitch, and then I've got one other project that's going to be done out of the waffle stitch. So those are all viewer requests, and so if you have a particular request, I'd love to hear what it is and see if I can get a video together. And then I'll also do reviews on how these yarns worked up and how they seem to be holding up, and all of that. So just gonna check through the comments here. A couple people mentioning aisles of yarn in their Joanne fabric. So mine is severely lacking in comparison to some of these. Stephanie, you must live near a really big Joanne fabric, because 8 yarns is way more than... Huh? 8 aisles. Yeah, 8 aisles is way more than any of the ones, or they're very, very short aisles. And then Christine's saying that she hopes that they come out with more colors soon. And is also requesting a Tunisian crochet cowl or shawl. I've done a couple of Tunisian shawls. I find Tunisian to be so rough on my hands. Especially with, I'm not sure if it's just that I don't really like the hooks that I have, or if it's just that I'm working too hard. Maybe I need to use a larger hook. One of the things that I didn't realize when I started Tunisian that I learned pretty quickly is that you have to work with a hook size that's like 4 or 5 sizes larger than what like the yarn calls for. So this calls for a 5mm crochet hook. You need to work with like an 8mm Tunisian needle or Tunisian hook in order to have it work out correctly. And that was something I just didn't realize. So when I fixed that, it got a little bit easier. But I could probably do some basic Tunisian. I'm certainly by no means an expert, but I've done enough that I feel comfortable in doing some basic stitches. So yeah, I could do a basic cowl out of a Tunisian simple stitch or something like that. So, all right, setting these aside. All right, so we've gotten through most of the yarn that I've bought. The rest of the stuff is new, so I'm gonna dip down here and grab the stuff. What's that? Oh, yeah. All right, so I am just gonna flip through here. There's some conversation going. Okay, so Stephanie's saying her store is in a college town, so it's pretty big. And all right. Oh, yeah. So up on the screen you can see you can find me on Instagram or on Facebook at Experiments in Crafting. If there's ever anything that you've made you want to share with me, I love seeing things that are like finished projects and whatnot. It doesn't actually have to be anything you saw on my channel. I just kind of like to chat about crochet. So you are welcome to send me projects or tag me in, in posts. If you have trouble with yarn or with crochet, you can always send me a direct message and ask me any questions that you'd like. Or if you catch me on Tuesdays when we stream, you can ask it in the live chat and we can all sort of discuss about it. So what I've got here is Bernat Crushed Velvet. I did a review a little while back on both Velvet and Velux. So this is a new line from, well, it's still Bernat Velvet, but it's Crushed Velvet, I guess because it's got this variegated color. It doesn't actually look like it's crushed physically. So I think it's just the line that they went with. They're running their Stitch and Win promo again, which means shoved in the center of this. Actually, this one seems to be missing its tag, so somebody probably stole it. That one's got it. I don't feel like digging it out because it's really jammed in there. But inside there is like a little tag stuck to the yarn. It's a little bit irritating if you don't have scissors and you're out, because that's what happened to me the other day. So I had to like pick the sticker off. But there's a code that you can go online and enter into some contest that they've got going on. Sometimes it's giveaway of yarn, sometimes it's a trip. I don't know what it is this year, but there's things that they're giving away with some packages. So, this is, like I said, Bernat Crushed Velvet. It's a number 5 bulky weight yarn. It's 100% polyester. It is 10.5 ounces or 300 grams. 315 yards, 288 meters. And they recommend a 5mm knitting needle or a 5mm, actually a 5.5mm crochet hook, which is an eye hook. All right, so I've got the colors Spruce and Ginger Plum here. And my plan here is to do the waffle stitch, which was one of the stitches that's been requested, and turn it into a pillow. So I've got a little bit of that worked up, and you can see how it's starting to work up here. This is the little tag that comes on the yarn. I forgot I've got one in here. So I'm trying to cover my code up here, but you just put it in the computer and enter, I guess. But I've got the ball of yarn worked up here, and I'm just using the eye hook, and you can see here that I've got a little bit of the waffle stitch worked up, and I've got a pillow form here that this is going to go around. So I've got it about as wide as it needs to be, and I'm going to make 2 of these and then stitch them up the side and cover this pillow. So you stitch like most of the way around and get the pillow form in there, and then you stitch the last little bit together. But I think the waffle stitch actually looks pretty cool. It has a really nice texture to it. It's actually even kind of neat, like backwards. So this is the back side of it, and there's just like little reliefs in here. It's a little bit difficult to see on the stream. Maybe if I flip this back around, you can see it if I tip it up a little bit. But you can see that there's bars going this way, and then there's bars going this way. And they're created by post stitches and actually all post stitches. So, but yeah, so I've got this started up, and I'm planning on doing the review on the crushed velvet, and then also the tutorial on the waffle stitch. Yeah, I keep confusing the waffle stitch and the basket weave. So I'm going to do a tutorial on both of them, but this is the one that I've got started so far. So, and then also on my table here, I got this week. This is a project bag. I know I've said in the past that I don't buy many project bags, and I've been kind of on a project bag buying phase right now. This is from a vendor online called It's Coming Up Rosie. It's Coming Up Rosie. And I'll double check that. I think I kept the little tag. Yep, it's cominguprosie.com. So, I ordered this through, I actually saw a Facebook post, and I thought that this was really cute. For those of you who are Hocus Pocus fans, it doesn't need much explanation, but it is a Hocus Pocus reference, and it's got some pretty cute, like, Halloween fabric here. It's actually really, really nicely made. It's backed, and it's really rigid and stands up really well on its own. It's got a nice little wristband that I can just about get my hand through here, but it's a little bit tricky to get it back off. So, as I've now got it stuck on my hand. I was a little bit hesitant to buy a zippered bag. I don't usually like zippers on my project bags because I'm just always worried that I'm going to get yarn caught through here. I mentioned that to the group that this was posted in, and several people had bought these particular bags from this designer and said that it had not been a problem. So I went ahead and gave it a shot, and I have not had any problems with the zipper catching the yarn. I'm using a pretty heavy yarn that also is not plied, so crushed velvet won't really like get stuck in there because there's no plies to like pick apart. But anyway, if you're looking for an interesting project bag, she's got some really cool ones. It's a little bit interesting because this whole panel is embroidered, and so a lot of times you don't see that in project bags. A lot of times they're just a fabric and then a fabric on the inside. So the embroidery gave it something a little bit interesting here. And then you've got the silhouettes of the witches from Hocus Pocus, and so it's all embroidered. I don't know. I really liked it. I thought I'd show you guys in case you're looking for somewhere to get a project bag. A few more people joining and saying hello. Welcome to anybody else who's joined. We're just going through some stuff that I've picked up over the last couple of days, I guess. It was only a few days ago that was the weekend. So if you've got any questions about anything you've seen here, or you want to ask questions about yarn in general, or crochet related questions, get those in the chat and we'll discuss them. All right. So I've got something that I hadn't seen before. I was at Target. Target usually does not have a fantastic craft section, at least the Target by me. We have good sized Targets, but not super Targets. And so I was there and kind of, well, I started, when you walk in the door, you've got the dollar section. And so I'll show you these real quick. In the dollar section, they had a scarf loom. It was $3, and they also had a hat loom. So there's a round loom for both a scarf and a hat. When I got back to their actual craft aisles, they had a hat loom kit for $24.99. So $3 is a pretty good deal if you just want to try it out. I think this size hat loom is probably only for a kid's hat. I think they need to be sized roughly about the circumference you need them. I could be totally wrong about that. I've not done much at all with looms, but I know they come much bigger, so that's my assumption. So you've got a scarf and a hat. Each one comes with instructions, some spare pegs, looks like a hook for picking up the loops, and 2 plastic yarn needles is what it looks like is in each of these bags. So those were $3 a piece in their dollar section. But what I really found interesting is in their yarn aisle, they have a new line of yarn. It's Handmade Modern. And I've got the colors Mineral and Magenta. They are a number 4 medium weight yarn. They recommend a 5mm knitting needle or a 5mm crochet hook, which is an H hook. And they are Target yarn. They're distributed by Target out of Minneapolis. Yarn is from India. So I thought this was kind of interesting. It's not just some other brand. They're not just selling Red Heart or Bernat. I thought it was a really weird decision on their part, kind of. Because they could just get Bernat or Red Heart or something and just stock the aisle, but they went with making their own brand. They had a bunch of crochet hooks and knitting needles. They had hat looms. There were things like pom-pom makers and stuff like that. But I also did notice that they were filling up sort of a full craft aisle. They had paints and little ceramic statues to paint. And lots of sequins and glitter and all sorts of things that you'd find at a craft store. Relatively small selection because it really was only one aisle. And then like the next aisle over was like office stuff. But yeah, so they had some what looked like higher end craft stuff, some nicer markers and things like that. But weirdly, most of it was their own brand rather than being like commercial or like readily available brands. So the yarn actually came in like, I don't know, 15 or 20 different colors, which I thought was pretty interesting. A lot of times when you get a brand of, worsted weight acrylic, you get 10 colors or something like that. And they had a pretty sizable selection of different colors. So a few more people joining and saying hello. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you are new to the stream and you enjoy it, make sure that you hit subscribe. For those of you who are just watching and liking it, you can hit like on the video. If you are a subscriber and you don't seem to be getting notifications about the live streams, make sure you hit the little bell there and change it from personalized to all so that you get all of the notifications. Let's see. Stephanie's saying that she loves the Target yarn. She used it for a blanket that she sent pictures of before and is asking if I saw the ombre yarn. I don't remember seeing ombre yarn. Everything I remember was solid colors, but I they could have either been out of it or I just don't remember it. But mostly I noticed that they had a huge selection in solid colors. But I will go back and look at those Instagram pictures. I remember the blanket that you're talking about. I didn't know it was Target yarn though. So, yeah, my husband's asking what I think about it just as far as initial impressions. It's got a little bit of halo to it that looks like it could pill a little bit. Especially on this gray one, you can see that there's just kind of a little bit of fuzz on the top. But it's relatively soft. It seems like decent acrylic. It's certainly not the softest or the shiniest acrylic I've seen. It's probably better than like a Red Heart Super Saver. I would say it's maybe on par with like Red Heart with Love. Red Heart with Love? Yeah. Or I'm trying to think of who else has a basic acrylic. Reminds me a little bit of the Impossible yarn. I think it's Impossible. Impeccable? I think it's Impeccable. From Loops and Threads. That's pretty like basic, comes in a lot of colors, but decent quality acrylic. So yeah, my husband's saying it looks like cotton because it's kind of a little bit dull in color. They did have some brighter colors. I kind of was trying for some fall colors or some like muted colors. But it was also not super cheap. It wasn't expensive, but it was, I want to say either $3.99 or $4.99 a ball, which for 100 grams of acrylic is okay, but like not an amazing deal. You certainly can get Red Heart yarn for about $4 for 200-ish grams. So, if you're going really cheap, but if you're going just, you're at Target and you want some yarn, it wasn't a bad deal. So, all right. So I'm going to set my Target yarn aside. That's all I've got from big box stores. The last thing that I've got to show you guys is, if I can get it, it slipped under my chair. There we go. Is my Leither Co. box. And so I've shown these off before. This is a subscription service you can get from their website. They send you a box of yarn every month. Each box has hand-dyed yarn, a surprise, a pattern, and a hook. So you get hand-turned hooks. They've got a yarn, a surprise, and a pattern. So I'm going to show these off to you and show you what I got this month. They also come in these super cute boxes and wrapped all nicely. Alright, so starting with the yarn. It is a 100% Pima cotton coral sock yarn. It is 100 grams or 437 yards. And it's in sort of it's called coral, and it's in a very coral colorway here. A little bit of like a sherbety orange color mixed in here, and a little bit of cream, but primarily like a corally pink.
It looks exactly like a flamingo.
My husband says it looks like a flamingo. So it is pretty flamingo-y colored. So that's the yarn. Then we'll go to the hook. Hook is really pretty this month, at least I thought. They're a little bit longer. So I saw some comments on her Facebook page that they were able to get different stock and cut it themselves so they could make these a little bit longer compared to, I know I pulled one of the hooks out here before, knocking my phone on the floor. So it's not like crazy longer, but if I line these up, they may be just a hair longer. So I don't know. They seem like very nice hooks. I really, in all actuality, have not used them a ton. I've used this hook a little bit, but they're really pretty to look at, even if nothing else. So, in my experience, they've been pretty easy to use. The heads on them are pretty nice. They don't seem to cause a whole lot of splitting or anything like that. They are boy-style heads on here, not baits, so they're inline rather than, or they're tapered rather than inline, if that matters. So that's that. And then the pattern this month is either a market bag or a kitchen towel. You get to choose. So kitchen towel pictured over here, market bag over here, and a couple of additional pictures there. Yeah, so that's the pattern card. They switched away, so the box originally came with a pattern printed out on a card, and in order to save printing and save paper that was going out, they switched to a single card with the pattern. Then there was like an intro, like a list of everything in your box, and they put the patterns online. So you just follow a link and you get the patterns there. And then the surprise bonus item here is a little stitch marker. Actually, it's a pretty big stitch marker with a couple of seashells and some little pearls there, and just a cute little stitch marker. So goes with the theme, sort of an underwater theme here. So it might be easier to see if I hold it in my hand. But that is the Leither Co. box. So I don't know. I really enjoy getting the subscription box. I know we've talked about maybe trying out some different ones, but this one has always really been very nice. One of the things that I am working on with the Leither Co., the lady who owns it, is she just started a referral program. And I messaged her earlier, and so the referral program is if you put up the link for referral and 5 people click the link and use it and order boxes, then you get a month free. And there's 2 things that didn't work perfectly for me. I don't really want to put up a link and then I get something free and you guys get nothing. That didn't seem totally fair. And then I don't really... I'm already getting the subscription. I don't really need to get the month free. So I was working with the lady who runs Leither Co. to see if we could work out a system where if I put up a referral link and a handful of you order it and try it out, then at the 5th person who tries it out, she would send me a coupon code and I could do a giveaway. So I did reach out to her. She's going to think about how that's going to work because she's got the system set up such that if she generates a referral code or a referral link, then it's just automatically going to send me the free box. So she's trying to think of how it's going to work out to generate a coupon code instead so that I can do a giveaway. But we are going to work that out and see if we can do a couple of, give a couple of boxes away if anyone's interested in trying that out. Like I said, it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's fun to get a yarn. And realistically, I guess it's not that I think it's $40 for the month, but that includes the yarn, the hook, the pattern, and the whatever the special bonus is. A lot of times it's been stitch markers, but there's been some other interesting stuff. There was a lotion bar. There was a little pair of scissors. Trying to think what else was in there. A little tape measure, I think, once. So it's just fun little things to go along. But the value of the box, I think, is pretty good. So if you're interested in trying that out, let me know, and I'll generate the referral link once I work out how we're going to do that with this lady. So.
If anyone wants to know what inline versus tapered means, I can zoom this in if you want to grab on.
Okay. Stephanie asked what the difference between inline and tapered means on the tip of the hook. So I'm going to pull out some hooks, and my husband's going to adjust the filming here so that I can show you. So let's see. What do I got for hooks? I know there's at least one inline hook in here because I keep it for this purpose. So go over here, right there. Okay. All right. So this is a Susan Bates style hook. If you look at the shaft of the hook, it's very, very short. I'm not really sure why that is, but it's got this really, really like severe throat to it that goes like they just took a chunk out. Versus these are my Clover Amour hooks. Put them this way so that they stay on screen. This is one of the Leither Co. hooks. This is my Clover Amour. This is the Susan Bates. And so you can see there's like a pointy cone-shaped head on this one, where this one's a little bit smoothed out. But the big difference is the throat shape. So this is an inline, and this is a tapered. And it's just a little bit smoother transition. It's also round all the way rather than... I don't really know what to call the cross section of this shape, but you can see that it's got edges where this has no edges. Most people get really attached to one style or the other, and won't switch back and forth. And so if you're one of those people, the Leither Co. hooks are in line. If you don't know if you care, or if you just have a mix of hooks because you got them from somebody and they're just all, they are what they are. What's that?
They're inline?
Oh, no, they're tapered. Sorry. The Leither Co. are tapered. Just like the Clover Amours and just like Boy. Boy is the... do I have a Boy hook? Here, this is a Boy hook. Added in there. So it's the same. You can see that the throat comes down to a taper rather than sort of looks like this chunk was just sliced out. So you can get kind of a better picture there. You can see what that inline hook looks like versus there's the taper. If I tip them back just a little bit. So that's really the only difference between them. Like I said, people prefer one versus the other. It's all a matter of preference and usually a matter of what you started with. Everyone's got different theories of this is better if you're a hook hold type of, or a pencil hold, and this one's better if you're a knife grip, and there's all these different theories. And what it comes down to is whatever you like is fine. So a pencil hold would be this way. Some people crochet with their hook this way versus a knife hook like you'd hold a knife. And then there's sort of an in-between, which is like a claw, like this. Or this? I don't know. There's an in-between hold that's not really pencil or knife. So, anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Just catching up here on comments. Okay, so Stephanie's just saying she likes the point on the inline for smaller hooks for smaller stitches. Yeah, it's like I said, it's all a matter of preference. The Susan Bates style does have a point, but it's a very different shape on the edge. So it could be that inline is just a little bit better for getting into tight stitches. I've found that I really prefer material over the shape of the throat of the hook. That being said, most of my hooks are inline. Like I said, I keep most of my hooks are tapered. I keep an inline around so that I can show people. But occasionally you just have to use an inline hook if you like a tapered, or you have to use a tapered if you like inline. So my Tunisian hooks are actually inline, and that could be part of the reason that I struggle with Tunisian a little bit, is that I'm fighting the hook style just a little bit. My Tunisian hooks are from Knit Picks. I picked them up at the local yarn store by me, and I don't know if I've got those around. They might be right behind me. I think they're down here. Yep, they're right here. So these are my Tunisian hooks. I've only got a few of them, all in big sizes. So I've got a 9mm, a 6.5, a 10, and a 6. But they are all inline throats. You can see there. So, but they're also wood, and I suspect what I don't like about them is that they're wood. I've gotten very, very attached to the metal that the clover hooks are made out of. I don't really know how to describe it other than it's like the most slippery material ever. And yarn just glides off of it, and you can glide right into any stitches. And I don't know, I'm very, very attached to the Clover Amour hooks. Like I said, it's just this material is so slippery and just so easy to guide through yarn that every time I try a different hook, I've tried other ergonomic hooks, I've tried all sorts of different things, and I seem to just come back to these every time. They are a little bit on the expensive side. I think the set of 10 standard hooks is about $75, like list price. I've never paid $75 for them. I have a notice. There's a website that I've shared with you guys before called Camel, where you can set notices on Amazon prices. And so I have a notice anytime Clover Amour hooks drop below $25, I buy a set. And so that's only really happened 2 times. I think I've bought 2 sets. And if it happens again, I'll probably buy another set because I tend to lose hooks every now and again. But I think right now they're hovering about $30. So if I needed a set, I could just grab a set. But if they fall below 25, I usually just buy a set. And then they also have the steel hooks, which are the teeny tiny ones. Those come in a set of 7, I think. And then they have the big hooks, anything over a 7mm, 6.5. I think 6.5 and up is out of plastic. And I wish that they would make those out of the same metal. The plastic are okay. They're still nice hooks, but they're not anything like these. So, yeah, If I have to recommend a hook at any point, these are what I recommend. Like I said, I've tried tons and tons. You can see I've got a bucket here, and there's 6 more containers behind me of different varieties of hooks, and they all have their purpose, but my favorites continue to be the Clover. Runaway Needle Reds agreeing that the Amour hooks are life-changing. Shalene joined us and said hello, so welcome. And welcome to anybody else out there watching who hasn't chatted in the live chat but is just out listening. If anybody out there has questions or wants to talk about anything yarn or crochet related, just throw that in the live chat and we'll discuss whatever. Stephanie's asking if I've used the Clover Soft Touch. The shape is different. And she's using them for the first time. I have used the Clover Soft Touch. Let me see if I've got one around. I think there's one in here. Yeah, there's one right here. Pop this guy open. So the Clover Soft Touch are made out of the same material. They have the same slippy quality, at least I think. But they all come in this amber color with like the little thumb pad, and then all of the hooks are gold. Yeah, I think they're about the same material. I don't like these because of how I hold my hook, but I'm positive that they're exactly the same in any other regard. So if these are both eye hooks, so you can see next to each other. Looks like you get a little bit more shaft on the Amore hooks. Sorry, let me get these on screen and stop turning them so they fall off. So it looks like you get just a tiny bit more shaft length on the Amore hooks. I think I've got these lined up even. But really it's like millimeters different. The part that I don't like is because of how I hold them. So when I hold my hook, I've got a lot of force coming off of my pinky finger holding and doing a lot of my moving. I also, for those of you who have watched any of my crochet videos, I wrap my yarn with my left hand, which is a little bit different. A lot of people pick their yarn or use their right hand a lot more than I do. I'm left-handed. I hold my hook in my right hand, but I do a lot with my left hand. But this shape fills up this gap here where my pinky is holding better than this. This is so flat and doesn't take up enough room for me. So if I'm holding with my pinky, it really gets cramped up pretty badly. Otherwise, the hook is the same. It really just depends on what you like. Some people who knife hold are just a little less aggressive with holding with their pinky. So if you just hold this like this and just kind of curl your hand and don't like use your pinky as a lever, like I do, these would be just fine. These are definitely better for a pencil grip person. So if you hold your hook like this, you're probably going to want the Amores because they're round. The soft touch are flat, so you can see they're really flat in comparison. So they're wide and flat, more like a knife, and I think they are designed for knife grip people. But even though I knife grip, I use so much of my pinky holding onto the back end of this that it doesn't work for me. Let's see. Shalene says every time she gets a plastic hook, it's inline. I think that's mostly true, though this plastic one, this plastic one's inline. Most of mine are tapered. So all of these guys are tapered. And I don't think I have my hook box down here. I think it's upstairs, but all of the Clover plastic hooks, the big ones, are all tapered. So the only inline plastic hook I have is this one. I do believe, though, that Susan Bates...
That's not the one I printed, is it?
No. This one I think I actually bought. Your printed one. My husband was asking if this was the one he printed. He did 3D print me a crochet hook at some point. Oh, I do have one more. This is also an inline. This was one from Hobby Lobby that I really liked the design on. They were trying to mimic the Furls hooks, and I was going to go back and buy the whole set, and they sold out of them. But yeah, so I think you can get plastic hooks if you work at it a little bit as inline hooks, but Susan Bates has a whole very popular line of plastic hooks, and so that's probably why you most often find inline plastic hooks. Boy does not, as far as I know, make plastic hooks. They make all metal hooks. I can't picture a set of plastic hooks from them. So that's probably why you're not seeing tapered plastic, is because Boy and Bates are the two biggest hook sellers around here. So I guess I should also, I've got some plastic hooks here, and they are both inline as well. I'm sorry, both tapered as well. I keep misspeaking. These are tapered hooks. These are relatively new hooks from Hobby Lobby. So if you really want tapered plastic hooks, you can get them at Hobby Lobby. I actually think most of my plastic hooks came from Hobby Lobby as well. But if you want inline ones, Bates has them readily available. You can probably get those at Michael's or Joann without a problem. So let's sort my hooks back out here so that I don't lose my eye hook. Set these guys aside. Twine Twiddler is asking what the best crochet chart app is to create patterns. Unfortunately, I've looked around quite a bit, and there are a couple of simple programs that are available for creating charts, and I have downloaded the ones that are free, and I don't really care for any of them, realistically. They're just a little bit too limiting. If you want to make something very basic, like you want to make a granny square or something like that, you can probably do it with one of the basic software packages. But if you want to make anything really any more complicated, unfortunately, the answer that I found online is that you need to use Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is part of like Adobe's package of editing software and what would you call that, productivity suite, really, or like a but Adobe makes like Photoshop and Lightroom and all of the big programs for editing pictures and video and things like that, sound and all that. But it's not super cheap. I don't know if you can get a subscription to just one program.
You can.
My husband's saying you can. Yeah, for cables, I think you're almost gonna have to do Adobe Illustrator. You might be better off hand drawing them if you don't want to learn the new software package. I've actually downloaded hand drawn charts before as part of patterns. So, they are a thing that people will just do and sort of accept. There are also places you can do, so she's saying she's got Photoshop, so she can do it there. I don't know if Photoshop has the same capability. Illustrator's just what people were recommending online. Somebody had a tutorial out. I don't remember. I think Edie Ekman. She does a whole bunch of different crochet books. I think I actually have one behind me here. This one. Every Which Way Borders is a crochet border book by Edie Ekman, but I think she has a blog where she did a couple of short videos showing how she does her charts. There are people out in the world who do tech editing for crochet patterns and make all of those charts in Illustrator. So if it's something that for those of you who don't have access to Illustrator or don't know how to use it, you could send a hand-drawn chart to a tech editor. I have no idea what that would cost. I can't imagine it's cheap. But yeah, I've joked with my husband that if there was ever going to be a video he was going to do for the Experiments in Crafting channel, that it could be an Illustrator tutorial. So maybe that will become a thing. I don't know that it will be in any short amount of time, but there is that possibility that we'll do something like that at some point. Let's see. Just trying to catch up on some of the chat. Shalene's asking if she shops online, should she just look for Clover? Personally, I would. Unfortunately, the Clover plastic hooks don't come in a set. So you have to buy those one-off, and they can be kind of pricey. I think they're between like $5 and $7 per hook. They'll probably last forever. I think they're made out of ABS, and they're pretty strong, and they don't flex much. That's one of the things I don't really care for about like thin plastic hooks, is like this one's pretty hefty and it's not going anywhere. But thinner plastic hooks have a lot of flex to them that I don't care for when I'm crocheting. Yeah, so just mostly caught up here. Yeah, So a few weeks back, I showed Red Heart Heatwave. I've got some samples worked up. Hold on one second. Knocking over my pile of stuff here. The cleanup process after streaming is usually intense because I've chucked everything on the floor around me. Yeah. I think that's all of them. So, I've got Red Heart Heatwave. This is the color Bikini. I'm going to clear some stuff off to the side here. Making the pile worse. And I worked up a sample of that. So I've got one sample here. I also worked up some similar sized samples in other yarns. So this is Lion Brand's Re-Up. This is Sheep's Katana yarn. These have not been blocked, so they want to curl pretty badly on me. This is Vanna's Choice by Lion Brand. It's just 100% acrylic. This one is Red Heart Chic Sheep. That's the Marley Bird yarn. It's 100% merino wool. And then this is a sample of the Heatwave that's been washed and washed a handful of times. Let me move these. There. Does that get most of them on screen? All right, rotate them. I'm having an even harder time today rotating because the chat's covering half my screen, so it looks off screen to me. But anyway, so I have these 6 samples worked up, and the plan here is to do a little bit of true experimentation. I've seen a handful of reviews around the internet, and there's a lot of misinformation and people assuming that it's a gimmick and that it doesn't work and that it's going to wash out. So, yeah, or concerns over safety. I've done a little research into what it could potentially be. I have a pretty strong theory on what fiber I think they mixed in. They don't give a whole lot of information. So if you pull the label off, all it says is Heatwave uses a patented fiber that absorbs energy from the sun to turn it into warmth even on cloudy days. The special fibers are spun into yarn from the beginning, so they never wash out. Heatwave will keep you up to 12 degrees F or 6.6 C warmer when you're outside. So so it's perfect for, and then it lists a whole bunch of activities, and then says that once you go inside, the heat generating properties are no longer activated. So that's really all they have to say about it. There's nothing on their website. There's no indication of what the patented fibers are. So I've done a little digging. I think I know what it is. So keep an eye out for that video. I'm hoping to get that out rather quickly so that I can hopefully dispel some of the crazy notions going around on the internet. I'm not sure that it's not just a gimmick. I mean, 12 degrees maybe is worth it. But I don't know that every yarn company is going to start doing this technology because it's, going to revolutionize the yarn world. But it's something fun and it's something different. And hopefully I can show you that it either does work or it doesn't work. I actually haven't done the full experiment to find out one way or another. Yeah, the weather's been pretty rough here, and because it calls for it to be sun activated, I'm trying to find a sunny day. It's actually been really nice the last 2 days, but I tend not to get home early enough to get much sunlight anymore. We're starting to dip into days where it's getting darker earlier. So, anyway, that's what's coming up. I've got a bunch of the little sample squares. On a side note, the Heatwave did seem like it softened a little bit when it got washed. It did, however, pick up every drop of lint in the wash machine. So I just threw this in with a couple of loads of laundry just to wash it a few times. These were not the exact same size square, so it's not like it grew or anything. But yeah, it picked up every last little bit of lint, which would be a real pain to get rid of. So this is part of the reason that people say to hand wash your homemade items, because then they look like this. Yeah, if you don't hand wash and you machine wash, you run the risk of picking up every little bit of lint on here. So, that's one thing to note, but it did seem like it softened a little bit. I don't think it's a terribly, like, it's not a scratchy yarn. This Vanna's Choice is way, way, way worse, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't really think it's a scratchy yarn. It's a little bit pricey, but it's something fun and different. You probably aren't going to make a whole blanket out of it. But if you're going to make a couple hats, I think you can get a couple hats out of a ball. Or at least one hat out of it, and it's something fun. So.
Wants to talk about Christmas ornaments.
Okay.
And Shalene had some input as well.
All right, so catching up on the comments here. Twine Twiddler's asking what the best yarn to make Christmas ornaments, stiff like Red Heart, Super Saver, or something else. So you have two options. Generally, when I've seen Christmas ornaments, they're usually made out of cotton, and it's usually very fine cotton, like crochet thread, to give you like lots of little detail. And if you're going to use cotton, cotton obviously isn't particularly stiff. You can use mercerized cotton, and that's a little stiffer. But generally what people do is make a really thin bath, or a really dilute bath of glue. So you get a pot, like a bucket of water, and you put some like Elmer's school glue in until it's really, really thin glue water mixture. And then you dip your ornaments in there and then lay them out or block them with pins to hold them, and then that's how they hold structure. Alternatively, you can use liquid starch. You can occasionally get liquid starch at the grocery store. I had a heck of a time finding it when I wanted to make some homemade, what was I making? Slime needs liquid starch. So you can use liquid starch and spray them and block them. Some people iron them instead and use spray starch just like you would if you were ironing a shirt. But you've got a few options to make them stiffer. If you want heavier ornaments with a little bit less detail and like intricate, or you want bigger ornaments, you can use a heavier yarn like a Red Heart Super Saver. And you can still do the same thing, but you cannot iron them. Super Saver is not, you can't put an iron on acrylic. You can hold a steam iron near them and do a process called killing it, which sort of melts the fibers just a tiny bit to each other so that they like stick to each other and like hold their shape. But I know that it's a fine line between killing it and melting it. Totally. But I think a thin glue suspension would still work on, or a thin glue mixture would still work on acrylic. You might see like white crusties. I think the reason that people generally use white cotton is that then you don't see the glue or the starch. So I think those are options for Christmas ornaments. Yeah, Wendy's saying Christmas dishcloths out of cotton. Shalene said Red Heart just sold out and merged with Yarnspirations. So yeah, that's true. Yarnspirations owns Caron and Bernat and somebody else. Coates and Clark is Red Heart. There was another brand. Caron, Bernat. Yeah. I'm struggling to remember the other big company that they own, but they did buy out Red Heart. So Red Heart, Bernat, and Caron are all going to be the same company. Red Heart previously owned all the Red Heart lines, but they also owned Aunt Lydia's. I don't know that Yarnspirations bought Coates and Clark. They may have just bought Red Heart and Aunt Lydia's from Coates and Clark. So I did not look that deep into their merger. Coates and Clark obviously make sewing thread and things like that. They have forever and ever. So I don't know if they just sold Red Heart and Aunt Lydia's or if Yarn Inspirations brought out the entire corporation. I tend to think that they probably just bought the yarn portion, since I don't know that they own like a sewing thread line. But yeah, so they've been very, my husband's got a little chart he's been working with. Oh, Patents. Yeah, so Yarn Inspiration also owns Patents Yarn. Yeah, Lily Sugar and Cream is was also part of Red Heart, I believe. So, basically what you're down to anymore is that you have Premier, you have Lion Brand, and you have Yarn Inspirations. Those are like your big box brands. In the US. Yeah, there's certainly other brands around the world that are different, but those are the ones that are pretty much your choices when you go to a big box store. Twin Twiller says that her mom couldn't get the liquid starch to work, but we'll try the glue. Yeah, I've heard just school glue. And actually a bunch of at least Walmart by me has school glue all on clearance because they're getting rid of all of their excess from school supplies. So, I bought a gallon of glue the other day for $7 just to have on hand for doing slime and stuff. I've done that, with one of the schools around here for, Halloween craft before. So, but glue can actually be pretty expensive, especially because slime is so popular right now that gallons of glue are pretty pricey. I think the cheapest I was able to get it before was like $14 from Amazon for Amazon Basics glue. You certainly don't need a gallon. A regular school glue is enough to do probably a whole batch of ornaments because you're diluting it in quite a bit of water and soaking them. All right. Just trying to read some comments here. Stephanie's asking if I ever make tiny projects to use leftover yarn scraps from whatever project that I'm working on. I used to actually use all of my yarn scraps to make Barbie doll clothes. It was kind of a lot of fun to just use little bits of yarn to make things up. I keep a little bin of all of my yarn scraps. There's also these little Lion Brand bonbons in here, but I've got all of my yarn scraps just saved here. More recently, I've stopped using my yarn scraps for doll clothes, and I just hold on to them because I've found that I've had to repair a couple of garments and things that I've made, and if I've got the little yarn ball left, it's a lot easier to do repair work. And so they're not really bothering me or taking up much space, and I've just got them on hand if I need to do repair work. At some point I probably ought to just get rid of some of them, but, yeah. So I've got some smaller balls and some little scraps and stuff that I used to do doll clothes out of. Again, I've mentioned several times, I've got a friend who's got kids who I spend a lot of time with, and so they went through a Barbie doll phase. Actually, they were in an Equestria Girls phase for a long time, which were dolls that tied into the My Little Pony franchise. And they were not compatible with Barbie doll clothes. So I was making them dresses and skirts and things that they could change out, and they really liked that for a while. They've grown out of Barbies a little bit and sort of into American Girl dolls right now. And I've made some doll clothes out of those, but that actually requires a lot more yarn than just scraps. But yeah, for the most part, my scraps just get balled up and saved in sort of a bin for if I need them in the future. Shalene's asking if I think Caron is going to start feeling like Red Heart. I suspect that they'll probably just keep all of their lines the same. But I could be wrong about that. It really just depends on what they want to do. The flip side of that is that Red Heart could start feeling like Caron yarn, which might be an advantage, though I came across, what was that, Caron Kindness or Caron Cares, or I think it was Kindness or something. Yeah, it's their yarn that they're intending for you to use for donation projects. And it was terrible. I really, really did not care for it at all. As far as I could tell, it had nothing for me. I really think that Red Heart Super Saver was way nicer. That being said, I've used Caron 1 pound before, and that was absolutely fine. So, yeah, I don't know which I would prefer, if Caron feels like Red Heart or Red Heart feels like Caron. Really, what I would hate to see happen is that they kill a lot of the uniqueness going on from brand to brand. So I felt recently like Bernat pretty much makes one kind of yarn, and that is chenille style, like big fluffy yarn. I can't even think of a Bernat yarn that's not chenille. They're making velvet, they make pipsqueak, they make blanket yarn, obviously. They're making this looped yarn, but every one of them is chenille. Which is the style where they take the little short fibers and twist it between two other like strings. And that's fine, but like I said, I can't think of another yarn that Bernat makes off the top of my head. And if they do, it's certainly not readily available. But
they're good at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, they seem fine at doing that, but it seems like there's a little bit of Bernat Pop, which competes with like Caron Cakes or something.
That's not a chenille.
It's a non-chenille yarn, but yeah, it just seems like there's less innovation in just releasing new colors or new lines. Like Bernat's new yarns out for the season right now are Bernat Blanket Big and Crushed Velvet, and some new colors of Blanket. And like, there's nothing, like, those are all fine, and I'm happy to have them, but there's nothing like wowing me or like, ooh, this is a new thing. Shalene's saying Bernat also makes a yarn called Handicrafter, and I believe that's a cotton yarn for like dishcloths that I've seen before. And yeah, I'm sure that there are others that I'm forgetting as well, but it's just, I guess my point is that Lion Brand is just chucking yarns out. They released 15 new yarns, and I don't know that that's better, but it's at least interesting. Yarn Bee is just literally any type of yarn you can think of, Yarn Bee is throwing out into the world right now. And I've noticed that at least the Hobby Lobby by me has expanded their yarn selection by quite a bit, and they're using different fibers and different, yeah, we've got merino and we've got cottons available. There's alpaca that's not terrible. I've seen some alpaca come through some of the big box brands at Joann and Michaels, and they use pretty low grade alpaca in my experience. There's like a soft part of alpaca fiber, and then there's like the little pokey bits, and a lot of times they tend to use the pokey bits. But yeah, Premier has got a lot of nice things. They've got Bloom out right now that has sort of an interesting little feature about it. And some nice yarns. I really like DK Colors. In some interesting colors. They're not as innovative, I don't think, as Lion Brand. They're not throwing, but I think they're also probably a much smaller company. Even just by looking at like their Instagram and Facebook followers, they're a much smaller presence on the market. But they make nice stuff consistently, and they release new things here and there. But yeah, what I'm hoping is that they don't kill all of the innovative lines out of Red Heart, and just sell Super Saver in its like 4 varieties. Like you can get Red Heart with Love, you can get Red Heart Soft, you can get Red Heart Super Saver. What I'm hoping Yarn Inspirations does is keeps, because Red Heart is one of the companies that's been releasing some interesting stuff. They released those weird little amigurumi kits, which I didn't care for, but were interesting. They were like wheels that they sold like this, and it had a bunch of colors, and there were 2 projects worth of yarn in there. And what else have they released? They did all of the, what is the name of those? Rainbow. It's a Wrap Rainbow and It's a Wrap Sprinkles are Red Heart. They released Chic Sheep, which was 100% merino. And actually very nice feeling merino. I was saying that Yarn Bee has some merino out. Their merino's 50%. So Red Heart did release the 100% merino. I'm trying to think what else I've got from Red Heart recently. Heatwave is one of them, yeah. So they've been doing some innovation and releasing some interesting stuff. So
one of the promising things is probably that the packaging says Yarn Inspirations Red Heart.
Yeah.
That probably means they're going to keep the brands.
Yeah, so what my husband's saying is one of the promising things is that it says Yarn Inspirations Red Heart. You can see on the Caron yarns, it says Yarn Inspirations here, and then Caron. So hopefully they'll see, they'll save that, the line there. But I guess it really just depends on how, if they just acquired the company and they're going to keep its innovation staff and they're just going to keep letting it roll, or if they're going to amass them all into one sort of company with the same innovation team, and then they say, all right, well, this one goes to Bernat, and this one goes to Caron, and this one goes to Red Heart, and that's just how we're going to release it. So, Shalene's commenting, let me see here. Bernat Pop has terrible colors in her opinion. I actually agree with you there. With the exception of DK Colors, most of the color changing yarns, and actually, these Caron Big Cakes had some nice colorways. This one, even this one though, has this like olive color, which I like, but is a little bit off palette here. So it's got kind of a brighter, not bright, but like a jewel tone teal. It's got this darker blue, it's got a red, and then there's an orange, and then olive. And olive goes, I guess, but just feels a little bit out of palette. The other one's similar, but not as bad. It's got like a rust color in here that, like, if I had picked the colors, I probably wouldn't have put rust in this palette. But it's fine. But Lion Brand Cupcake, Bernat, Pop, and what's the other one? Caron Cakes, the original Caron Cakes, all have one color in them that I just don't care for. And so I don't know. I haven't gotten really attached to those original like lines of color changing yarns. DK Colors I absolutely love. They have very, very pretty palettes. But even Premier's got Sweet Roll that were pretty enough, but also had a similar issue with them, that some of the colorways had a color that I could have done without. Shalina also asked what banana fiber is. I'm not sure in what context, but I assume
Yarn you can get that's made from scrape husk off a banana tree and weave it.
Yeah. So yeah, my husband answered to me, and I'll repeat, it's basically they take the husk. I actually thought banana fiber came from the leaves, but is it, you think it's out of the actual bananas?
It says it's scraped, no, not off the bananas. It's scraped off the bark.
Oh, off the bark. Okay.
Because it's like a palm tree, so they have that kind of hairy bark.
So similar to like a coconut fiber, I imagine, but that actually comes off the coconut. It's scraped off the bark of the banana trees, and they pull that fiber out. It probably is not ultra soft if I was guessing. Probably a bit raspy, but probably just trying to find something to do with waste product is usually what hemp is the same way. The big thing right now is that all of the CBD oil and the hemp growers are gaining ground, but what they're going to do with all of the hemp is sort of an issue coming up right now. So I think we'll probably start to see hemp being used as rope, and I mean, it is currently used as rope, but I think it'll probably be more available in yarn and stuff like that. Flax is the same as linen. It also is just a fiber out of the core of a plant. Flax, if I remember correctly, is kind of a disaster to deal with. It's messy, and the fibers are like feet long, and I think they have to soak all the stems, and then they slice them open, and they have to like rip out the flax, and it's kind of a real big pain. Where cotton, you can just cotton is a mess because you have to clean it and get all like the seeds out, and they have to use a ton of water to process cotton. But as far as like dealing with fiber, you just pick the cotton balls off, and like I said, then it's a whole mess of cleaning them and all that. But I guess all of the natural fibers have their benefits and drawbacks. Banana fiber may be extremely strong, but scratchy or something like that. So I've got a couple of yarns that I could dig out for next stream and talk about some really weird fibers, but I know I have at least one that is milk fiber that they made from milk protein. I'm trying to think, I've got some other weird yarns. I bought that as Yarn Box was one of these subscription services that went out of business a while back, and I bought it as a clearance out of their yarn. So I think I've got 4 skeins of milk fiber somewhere. I've got some interesting cottons, some organic cottons. But yeah, the milk fiber is some process that they make the proteins really long. So you can have cellulose-based fibers, or you can have protein-based fibers. So wool, alpaca, things that come from animals are protein-based fibers, where linen, hemp, cotton, probably some others, banana fiber, are all cellulose-based fibers. So it's just what they are at a molecular level is a little bit different. But if you can get long, reasonably sized pieces, you can spin them into fiber. So they spin this out of milk. I'm not sure how, but it is milk based. So I agree with you on Red Heart. They have interesting things. I hope they don't kill off Red Heart. Yeah. So I Bring It says that they've got that Red Heart has some interesting things, and that they hope they don't kill it off. I would strongly doubt they'll kill it off. That it would be a really strange move to buy out a company and then just kill it. I mean, I guess that happens, but Red Heart is kind of I don't want to say the gold standard, but like the name that has been around forever. So I feel like it would be a really strange and poor move on their part. But I suppose it's a thing that companies do. They buy out companies so that they just buy out their competition. And then just stop selling that, and then you have to buy those things. But I would doubt that they would go to the trouble to do that, really. Wendy says that she hopes they never change Unforgettable. I can't agree with you. I know Unforgettable is very, very pretty. I did not care for working with it. It really, it's a very, very dividing yarn. There's a handful of topics that are very, very polarizing in the crochet and knitting world. I did make up a whole scarf out of My husband's in there commenting. I don't know. It was actually pretty unforgettable, but it wasn't pleasant. So I didn't care for working with the yarn. Like I said, there's some very polarizing topics in crochet, and in the yarn community, and I think one of them is around unforgettable. There's people who love it.
Shawl was unforgettable?
It was a scarf that I gave your mom.
The gray one?
No, a multicolored one. It was orange and yellow and blue and but yeah, he's asking me what project I made out of that. It was one of the very first things I made. It was the very first thing I blocked, which was part of the problem. I blocked it up in our living room on a bunch of mats, and it really, really didn't want to block. So, but for those of you who like Unforgettable, I hope that they don't change what they are doing with it. I'm trying to think. The closest competitor to Unforgettable was a thing that Lion Brand made. I don't remember what that was called. Landscapes, I think. So I guess if they do change Unforgettable, Lion Brand Landscapes, I think, still exists and is a very, very similar. If you look on my Ravelry, it's a corner-to-corner scarf. I think it's on there.
Yeah, Landscapes.
So
Landscapes looks just like it.
Yeah, Lion Brand Landscapes is very similar to Red Heart Unforgettable. It might be a little bit heavier. So, but I would think that for the very short term, they'll keep everything as is, because probably they've got mills and warehouses full of yarn that they need to sell, to make their buying decision profitable for them. But then also, what they do with the lines, we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. So, that's really all I have to show you guys tonight. If you guys have more questions, about yarn or crochet, if you have questions after the live stream ends, you can always message me on Facebook or Instagram at Experiments in Crafting. You're welcome to tag me in posts of anything that you finish, or you can just send me pictures as a direct message on either of those platforms. If you have questions about yarn or crochet or anything like that, I'm more than willing to help. But even if you're done with a project and you just want to show it off, I love to see those too. So, again, at Experiments in Crafting on both Facebook and Instagram will get you in touch with me. If you like the video and you are not a subscriber, please hit subscribe. If you are a subscriber and you're not getting notifications about when we're going live, you can click the little bell. I always do this backwards. There. You can click the little bell and change it from personalized to all, and you should be getting all the notifications. If you don't get if you're still not getting notifications, then it's Facebook's or YouTube's fault, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that, but I do try and post on Facebook and Instagram when we're going to stream. Sometimes it's only a few minutes before, but if you're getting notifications, you're following me on either Facebook or Instagram, you should get a notice somehow. So, excuse me. Hopefully one of those will get you notifications that we're live streaming or that we've posted a video or something like that. So, Shalene's asking if she missed the unboxing. I'm not sure where you came in the stream, but I can pull out the stuff and just put it back up here. Let's see. So just a quick recap. I've got the Caron Big Cakes. These have been out a little while, but they had some fall colors that I really liked, and so we're going to be doing a basket weave scarf out of this. I've got this is new from Bernat. This is crushed velvet. I previously reviewed velvet. This is very, very similar, but comes in these variegated colors instead of solids. Let's see, what else do I have here? Bernat Blanket. Bernat blankets obviously been around forever, but they released their new fall colors and they're very woodsy. And so these I pulled out to do a pumpkin wreath that I'm going to get a tutorial together. And so if you happen across these colors, I'm going to get this out and you can be prepared for that. These are also good colors for any pumpkin project that you come across. What else do I have here? This is another yarn that's been out a little while, but I came across as a good deal. And I came across this little book here. This is Baby Loops and Twists. It's a little like pamphlet style book from Leisure Arts, and it has a bunch of patterns to use this loop style yarn with. I've had a couple people ask me if I could do a review of this, and I had not worked with it in the past, so I'm doing that. Let's see, what else do we have here? I went to Target and picked up some yarn that is handmade modern. It's a Target house brand, because apparently now Target's going to carry yarn. Let's see, what else do I have? I grabbed some Woolies Thick and Quick. Again, not a new yarn, but some newer colors. And these are destined to be a mosaic scarf. Last couple weeks, I've had some requests to do some mosaic crochet, and so I'm going to use these and make more of a men's scarf. Obviously fine for women, but just that's what I was targeting with these colors, is a little bit more masculine palette. And that's about it. We unboxed the Leither coat box, which had a cotton yarn this week. So a nice coral yarn on Pima cotton and a pretty little hook. I think it's a 2.75 millimeter hook here this week, and a cute little, this won't turn around, a little stitch marker here. And I think that's about it. The only other thing I showed off was this project bag that I picked up, which is a little reference to Hocus Pocus. So that is sort of the recap of the stream here. Quickly looking down the list here, a couple people look like they're leaving for the evening, just saying they enjoyed the live stream. And then, yeah, so as always, if you miss the beginning of the live stream, as soon as it finishes, you can rewatch the whole thing. It takes a little bit of time. Once we end the stream, it takes YouTube a little time to process it and get it back up, but you can go back and see all the details on this. And then Stephanie's asking if she would need a sewing machine for the project bag, or can it be hand sewn? I am terrible at hand sewing. I suppose it could be, but I will be machine sewing it. It's mostly just straight seams, so I suppose you could do it by hand if you have some hand sewing skills and the time. But honestly, if you take a look around on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever app is selling things, it seems like they change rapidly. It was Craigslist for like 10 years, and then now it's like a new app every week. And so if you find whatever app is popular in your area, a lot of times you can get a sewing machine for like $25. So, and Rosie from It's Coming Up Rosie stopped by and said that she loves the project bag that she made, and so do I. So, yeah, I mentioned earlier in the stream that I don't buy a ton of project bags because I do usually make my own, but this one was too good to pass up. So, definitely had to have this one. I actually even own a embroidery machine. It can't embroider like this. It's a pretty basic model. I mean, I suppose it could if I went through the trouble of learning how to use it and changing colors and whatnot. But yeah, so I even own an embroidery machine that's collecting dust, and I still opted to buy this, and it was, I don't regret it even a little. So it's very well made, and I've been very happy with it. So unfortunately, the people that I wanted to show it off to at work are out this week, so I haven't got to show it off to many people yet. But yeah. And Shalene's saying sorry to make a mess again. That's no problem. All of this was just piled on the floor anyway, so it was going to have to get picked up and put away after the stream. So I'm happy to pull anything back out if anyone wants to see things and have me pull anything back out. I'm always happy to do that. So, yeah, so we were talking about the project bags and whether you'd need a sewing machine. And I was saying you can usually get sewing machines for really cheap on like Facebook Marketplace, and people, you know, somebody's grandmother or mother will pass away and they just sell all of their sewing machines or whatever they've got. And so a lot of times you just find an older sewing machine, and really you just need to make a straight stitch. Like, it doesn't have to do anything fancy. So just an old workhorse machine would be just fine for making project bags. And you can get them between like free and, you know, $50. So depending on the area, given that you live in Florida, I would think that the abundance of sewing machines might be high. So given the concentration of the population there. So anyway, as far as learning to use it, I took a class at Joann Fabric, and it ended up being really good classes. I ended up taking, what did I take? 4 of them, I think.
You made a shirt, you made a pillow.
Yeah, I made a shirt. I made a pillowcase. I made a little cosmetic bag, and I made a table runner. So I did 4 classes, and the shirt was like 3 sessions or something like that. But it might be getting close to when they do, there's a week or a weekend between when their old classes are ending and their new classes are like available to register. When they put the calendar out for like the next session, they do like a 50% off weekend. And so you can get classes for like $16 or $17, and they're absolutely worth it at that price. So they're normally about $35, and $35 is kind of on the fence, where it's like, I could probably watch some YouTube videos and learn to do it. But $17 is absolutely worth having like an actual instructor and somebody who can work with you and work with your actual machine, because you can take it in with you and learn on your own machine, and they can show you how to do it on whatever equipment you're going to be using. If you don't own a sewing machine and you want to learn on theirs, then they have those available for use too, and they don't usually charge you to use theirs, because I think they're hoping that they'll sell you one. So, and then I think recently, if you keep an eye on the coupons, they occasionally have been running sewing machine coupons where you can get 50% off or $50 off of any sewing machine or whatever they're running if you want a brand new one. The other thing I guess I should mention is, if you are looking for a sewing machine, a lot of times if you find a sewing machine store, they will refurbish old ones and sell them. The one that I have was a refurbish from somewhere around where my mother-in-law lives, and I know when she said she bought it, it came with free lessons for a while. And I know that there's a brother store near me. They do the same thing. Actually, I think if you buy a sewing machine from them, refurbished or new, they do free lessons for life. So you can drag your sewing machine in and they'll teach you how to do whatever. So yeah, that's really all that there is, I guess, my opinion on sewing machines. Mine Mine's secondhand, and I've been very attached to it. It probably needs to go out and be serviced. It's got a little bit of trouble with some stitch length problems. But I should probably get that fixed before I do a tutorial on it so that my stitch lengths are right. Dawn's just joining us and said she went to go see Downton Abbey. I actually never finished the last season of Downton Abbey. I was really into it, and then I just stopped watching it. I don't really... So I guess I probably ought to go back and finish the last season, and then plan on seeing the movie when it comes out of theaters and is on DVD, because I really did enjoy it. My husband and our roommate at the time actually ended up watching at least the first 2 seasons and liked it for a little while, and then it got too dramatic, I think, for their tastes. Yeah, so he's weighing in there. But yeah, yeah, Dawn said that she'll catch the replay, and yeah, like I said earlier, for those of you who join late, the replay is usually available as soon as YouTube can process it. We stream pretty high quality streams, so it takes them a little bit of time, to get it processed, but it usually is about an hour or so, right? So...
Yeah, I don't know how long it'll take to process this one.
Yeah.
We're almost at 2 hours right now.
Okay, so it takes a little while, but hopefully it's available and you can catch the replay of the stream. Got a whole bunch of stuff that you can look at here.
Instead of waiting until the stream ends,
Mm-hmm.
I think if they, right now, they could click and drag back to the beginning and start rewatching the stream before it processes.
Okay.
I think.
So my husband's saying that you might be able to drag the stream all the way back to the beginning, like you were rewinding 30 seconds of a video, but drag it all the way back to the front of the stream, and you might be able to just start rewatching it now, before it processes. If not, then it's on YouTube's end, and you gotta wait for them to get it through their servers and process it all so that it goes up. If you watch it too quickly, there's usually like a really low resolution version of it available rapidly, and then for it to get to like full HD takes it a little while. And I personally would recommend that you wait until it's available in HD, but if not, it might just be kind of hard to see some of the detail on the yarn and whatnot. So, if nobody has any other questions or, things they want to discuss about yarn or crochet, we can wrap things up for the evening. Otherwise, I'll hang out just a second and see if anybody else has got some last-minute questions or comments. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. So I'm working on the waffle stitch on the crushed velvet yarn. That's this one here that I showed earlier. So I'm working on that. I've just about got the Granny Spike blanket finished, and so I'll probably get a tutorial available on some sort of edging on that blanket. And then, so we've got basket weave on this yarn, mosaic crochet on this yarn, waffle stitch on this yarn, pumpkin on this one. There's that baby blanket that we're going to do out of this one. And then I'm sort of open for suggestions after that point. So if there's a stitch that you'd like to see... Oh, we did talk about Tunisian tonight. So I'll maybe find a simple Tunisian scarf to work on. Actually, the first thing I made out of Tunisian was a cell phone case, like a little case that could either be used for a cell phone or like sunglasses or something. So that might be a nice, simple project to do. That could just be extended. You just make more stitches to do a scarf or something like that. It would be very easy to just not sew it together and make basically the same stitch for a scarf. So that's sort of what's on the docket. And then, of course, we've got a whole backlog of other suggestions and just trying to work through those. I am probably out of town all weekend this weekend, so I don't know how many of those will get recorded, but hopefully we'll get you guys some videos and some content very shortly. And then, of course, reviews on all of these yarns as well as the tutorials. So reviews will probably come first with tutorials to follow. So I think I am going to wrap up for the evening, and we'll see. I'll be out of town this weekend, so I might do some yarn shopping. We'll see what we've got going on next week. If you guys have questions, specific things that you'd like to see covered, put those in the comment section after the video processes, or direct message me on either Facebook or Instagram at Experiments in Crafting. So you can let me know what you'd like next week's stream to be about. So with all that being said, have a great rest of your week and have a great weekend. And I will see you back here next Tuesday about 8 o'clock is when we stream. That's 8 o'clock Central Time. And we'll meet back up, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.